What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. And you know, this whole writer's strike and this AI situation is absolutely fascinating to a guy like me because you're really seeing like the world change in real time, all right? And how it affects people like on their day-to-day jobs, things that people actually have to do to make a living and eat and thrive and survive in this world. And you're actually seeing that in real time when it comes to these Hollywood writers who have been banking on being the glue to a lot of studio projects in terms of the storytelling, the character creation, character development, you know, over the course of several, months or even years of creating a character or a story. You're seeing these guys absolutely losing their shit right now because they see a brick wall coming right up there and they're speeding towards that, okay? They see this giant wall that they're speeding towards and they don't know how to get out of its way. And that brick wall is called AI because essentially what AI is doing is it's going to replace standard like meat and potatoes of the writing process, just building out a script, writing like this, the general details of a script. There's a lot of creativity that goes through an artist's mind when they are in the process of creating, okay? And I don't think that's something that an AI can replace. When you're sitting there and you're writing out a story, you'll get like a spark of inspiration that'll change the story for the better, right? Well, I don't think the AI is going to be able to get some inspiration. Like, where does the AI get inspiration from? Only thing it can do is just take whatever input it's coming into it, all right? But you have this article here on Above the Line by Jeff Snyder, the N. Snyder himself, and he says here, the AI revolution has already reached the studio gates and Disney's Bob Iger may be the only CEO who can stop it. So to me, these guys are the ones who would probably be more interested in AI than anybody else. They're not interested in creating, like the creative process of creating a brand new character or a brand new story. Disney's more or less just cashing in on IPs. You know what I'm saying? Like Marvel and Star Wars, Peter Pan and Wendy and, Little Mermaid, stuff that's already been written. We already know the story. Now they just need to update it for modern times or whatever it is that they're trying to do. And you can feed that into an AI. An AI is just going to react to that. So I don't know if Bob Iger would be necessarily the guy that would stop it. He might be the guy that embraces it the hardest. All right. It's like, oh, I just need a computer just to spit out some scripts for me. Okay, I don't necessarily need something to be creative and unique and different. All that creativity, that was long ago in a galaxy far, far away with George Lucas, right? Or in the case of Stan Lee with Marvel and all the stuff that Stan Lee created, all right? We got stacks upon stacks of comic books that we could just plumb, all right? So we could just grab the storylines from those things and just enter that into the computer. All right, I need a script, all right? Put that into the AI, spit me out some scripts, and off we go, all right? The same thing with all their animated classics. Like their animated classics, and look, all of these things have been created already, all right? What AI can't do is AI cannot create and to get inspired to, when you're in the middle of writing a particular passage and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? This would be really cool if I did this part right here, or the organic process of writing, it changes. I don't think Disney is interested in organic writing. That's my thing. So I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but let's see what Jeff Snyder is talking about. For weeks, multiple studios and streamers have been planning to use AI to generate scripts based on books and other IP that is public domain, with lists of titles making the rounds among development executives. Multiple insiders have told Above the Line. Yeah, they're already in the process of just grabbing public domain and just say, hey, I don't need to pay for this IP. It's just out there. Anybody can use it. Anybody can make something off of it. Let me just go ahead and grab that. Boom. Off we go. Okay. I mean, it's kind of smart when you sit back and think about it. I'm reliably told that nearly every studio has explored this possibility and that should these plans come to fruition over the weeks and likely months to come, the studios plan to hire writers to rewrite those scripts once the writer's strike is over. That is, of course, a major sticking point in these negotiations, as the WGA is insisting that AI not be used to create any literary material whatsoever. In case you haven't been paying attention to the headlines these last few days, AI has seemingly become the defining issue of this strike, as the very profession of film and television writing is at stake, as is the future of the guild itself. Yeah, I discussed that on a video, which I will link above if you guys didn't check it out. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing I see as a sticking point, is this AI situation, okay? Again, artificial intelligence being able to churn out scripts, all right? Let me show you something real quick. Now, I went to ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT, by the way, all right? And I follow this guy, John Truby, one of the great teachers of storytelling out there. And he has a 22-step process of how to tell a story, all right? So I asked the ChatGPT, hey, per John Truby, what are the 22 steps of storytelling? And then, of course, he goes in there. John Truby is a well-known screenwriting teacher and author, developed his own 22-step structure for storytelling, which he outlines in his book, The Anatomy of Story. Here are the 22 steps as described by Truby, okay? And he goes into it absolutely perfectly, okay? Describes it to the T, all right? So ChatGPT has that information embedded in it. Now, and then he says, of course, it's one of many approaches to storytelling, whatever. And I said, okay, write a story using the 22 steps of storytelling with the protagonist, I just came up with a name, Abel Carter, and antagonist, Cyril Harper, and the love interest of Frida Sampson. Didn't give it anything but that, okay? So here's what they came up with. It gives you, and it filled in all of John Truby's information. Weakness and need. Abel Carter is a successful businessman, but he has a deep fear of failure that prevents him from taking risks and pursuing his dream. He also struggles with a sense of loneliness and isolation and blah, blah, blah. And he kind of goes through each step, okay? Now, here's the part. I asked him, write a scene you outlined in step 5 with Abel and Cyril arguing at a networking event in a screenplay format, okay? And it literally wrote out, not perfectly, of course, this isn't a screenplay I think would ever pass mustard, okay, in a Hollywood studio, all right? But it gives dialogue. It's got 2 characters going back and forth, building up to the, the end of a scene. Like, it has the structure of a scene absolutely laid out there to the fade out, And here's the thing. You could get a writer to say, okay, we put all of this stuff together. We went through each of the 22 steps and we had it spit out a portion of a script. Take this and run with it, build off of that, okay? You could absolutely do that. And screenwriters can do it, of course. And again, this is only like the free version. I'm not even sure how deep or how better the script writing could be if you pay for it, right? This is just like the free version of ChatGPT that I'm using. And it's not necessarily even a screenwriting AI, right? This is just something it can do. But imagine if an AI program is specifically designed for screenwriting, okay? And now you have the ability to churn out script after script after script in no time flat. All right. And then, yeah, you could take those scripts that are probably going to be better in quality, because this isn't very good quality, but you could take a script that's better in quality and then hand it off to a writer and say, all right, man, go out there, finish this thing up, polish it up, put a human touch to it so it doesn't feel so robotic, and whatever. All right. That's the future of writing. And that's what these writers are running scared from. And I absolutely understand that. Snyder continues, while I'm firmly on the writer's side here and believe that AI will never be capable of truly writing a great movie like The Social Network, or even a very good one, it can aid a writer and also provide a framework that the writer can tweak and put their own stamp of humanity on. That's what I was just saying. Thereby speeding up the development process and saving the studio some shekels, since it won't have to pay writers to start from scratch, which is precisely why the Guild is pushing back. Everything that I just showed you is what they're talking about. You don't have to pay a writer to do what I did. You could just have some studio executive, I have an idea for a film, and then just go on ChatGPT, type up some prompts, okay? Follow John Truby's 22 steps or somebody else's steps. You don't have to follow John Truby. It could be anybody. And you just have them type it up, spit it out, all right? And then next thing you know, you have a script. And here's a point that I think that Jeff Snyder makes that's very interesting. Folks on the studio side suggest that writers should not fear AI, but rather embrace it, as its usage is inevitable. And there are those, i.e. Joe Russo, who believe it can be a wonderful tool, both for writing and actual filmmaking. The fear surrounding AI is certainly understandable, as it is with any technology that is considered disruptive. To its supporters, though, it's all about how you use it. Studios can use AI to replace writers or help them improve their work. And let's face it, there is room for improvement these days. How might it do the latter? It could deepen fan engagement, or identify things that fans want to see that a writer would then, write. With proper training, AI can be another tool in a writer's toolkit. 100%. 100%. Again, I think that it's a good thing if they embrace it the proper way. It'll work, okay? That's why I think, again, this writer's strike is ill-timed. There's some other negotiation point that they're missing. In my opinion, it's about, okay, we're trying to say as writers, don't use AI to create material, okay? We'll create the material ourselves as the writers. But the studio executives, you got to understand, they're looking on it on their end like, we don't have to negotiate, all right? We can just simply use the AI, the technology that's available, and just improve upon it. All right. It'll get better every single year. Every year it gets a little bit better, to the point maybe 10 years from now, all you're doing is just having a writer just enter a prompt. Okay. Give me a script about blah, blah, and it spits out an absolutely perfect script. All right. And a lot of times, a lot of directors and actors, they just go off script anyway, right? They just ad lib at all. It's all right, well, I think this would be better. And those are the artists, right? Those are the artistic things that they want to do. So the director is, ad libbing a scene, or he's saying, nah, we're going to switch this up. I'm going to rewrite this. Okay. And we know that actors do that all the time. They ad lib scenes all the time. They change it up according to their own artistic vision of what this particular character or this particular scene should look like. So again, I don't know if the writers have a lot of legs to stand on, but deepen fan engagement. Again, this is the stuff that we've been talking about, right? Like Hollywood is completely disconnected from the fans, okay? They have no idea what their audiences want, all right? And that's the biggest issue right now in Hollywood. They need to deepen that fan engagement. They need to bring the fans in. You've heard me say this several times. Listen to the fans. Listen to the fans and you won't go wrong, all right? But they're not doing that, okay? They have no fan engagement. Hollywood lives in this little enclosed bubble, all right? Where they don't go out there and interact with common people, and that's their audience, but they have no idea who these people are, what these people care about, what these people want, okay? And so you can make stupid mistakes when you're so far disconnected. Look at this whole Dylan Mulvaney thing. Again, I've already discussed that, which I will also link above. Again, this whole Dylan Mulvaney thing is strictly about not understanding your audience, not understanding your fan base, okay? I guarantee you everybody is paying attention to that situation right now, okay? All eyes are on that situation because, okay, we completely disconnected from our audience for a hot second. We thought we was hitting a lick on something that was big and huge. Guess what? We're about to go out of business, or we're going to lose severe amounts of market share over to our competitors because we were so stupid with what we did in terms of marketing, all right? And the same thing is going on in Hollywood. They need to identify things that fans want to see. That's what they need to do. And they're not doing it. So yeah, I absolutely think that AI could be the link, the bridge between the common man fan that, they want to sell their films and television shows to, and these studios who just simply live in these bubbles. They're millionaires. They don't get it. All right. But if they wanted to connect to their fan bases, they have to figure out a way. And maybe AI can say, hey, dig into this thing. Why did people love Game of Thrones, but they hated Rings of Power, right? Like, why is it such a big difference of a disparity between those two and how much they took off in the cultural zeitgeist, where everybody every weekend was talking about what happened on the last episode of Game of Thrones? I could not find one person that gave a damn about Rings of Power at my job. Okay. So that tells you everything you need to know. There's a huge disconnect between fan bases and between these studios and these folks that are making it. So speaking of the studios, right, he talks about Bob Iger. He thinks Bob Iger is going to be the savior. Now look at this. Bob Iger is the only CEO who may be worth every penny, and he's the one who all the others look to with respect and admiration. Now, here's the thing about Disney. Disney, like I said earlier, they're nothing but an IP cashing machine, okay? They just take IP, all right? They take it and they just cash in on it, all right? They don't actually do any creativity. So to me, Bob Iger is probably the guy that's like, I don't really need to pay anybody to just take all of these IPs that I already own and just cash in on them. Like, why would Bob Iger, care at all about the writers? In my opinion, he probably cares about the writers the least, all right, because he's not relying on them to be creative at all, right? Yeah, if he came in and put his foot down, that would definitely carry some weight. So Jeff Snyder's not wrong in that regards, but I'm just like, well, why would he? Why would this guy who, again, Disney is just about IP. They've never, Mickey Mouse, that's the original creation of Walt Disney and those types of characters. You go through their catalog of even their animated stuff, all of that stuff is just previous IPs. Snow White, Cinderella, Pinocchio. That's all stuff that's just been written by other people in fairy tales and things like that. And they just, again, it's just an IP they just adapted and updated and, made money off of. All right. So again, I don't think Disney is the one that's going to champion this thing. If anything, I think Disney would be on their side. But Bob Iger, yeah, he could win some brownie points with the writers if he chose to go in a different direction. I don't know. But again, to me, I just think this is an interesting, very, very interesting situation for writers at this point in time. And I'm not sure what's going to happen to it. But he ends it off by saying, at the end of the day, the strike comes down to corporate greed on the part of AMPTP's members. And as someone who has been negotiating with movie studios for more than a decade over information, headlines, and photos, let me tell you, they are next to impossible to deal with. So I feel the WGA's pain and stand with them as they bravely fight for the future. Yeah, that fight for the future is going to be really, really interesting. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think the writers picked the wrong time to do this. I think if they had maybe let AI develop a little bit deeper, all right, and seeing what studios are going to do with it at that point, maybe that's the time that you try to push the panic button and go on strike. I think right now they should have still been in full negotiation mode. We're not striking. We're not pulling the plug on any of our careers. Full negotiation mode, okay? We're not about to pull the plug because now you're just giving the green light for studios to go, fool, let's go ahead and get the AI cracking, okay? Let's see what AI can do. It might not do everything we want it to do right now, but let's kind of accelerate that process, and I think that's to the detriment of the writers. Anyway, folks, what do you think about this situation? I find this absolutely fascinating. This is like huge in my head as a writer, as somebody who tries to write or tries to create. I think both sides have a point, all right? And I like the fact that it's being discussed in this way because I think that, ultimately other industries are looking at this in terms of what can AI do for their industry. And I think that a lot's going to come out of this Hollywood strike or this writer strike for this industry and for AI as a whole. But anyway, you guys go ahead. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And thanks for watching. See you next time.